Welcome back to another episode of Travel Ball Talk. I'm your host, Rich Prado, owner of Play in School. Today we're heading up to the Chicago area to catch up with Anthony Gliffe, Director of College Recruiting over at Lake County Lightning and the Illinois Lightning Baseball. Anthony, how you doing, man?
I'm great, Rich. Thanks for having me today. I'm excited to be on your podcast and get into some really great conversations.
You know, I wanted to point out that that title that you go by, Director of College Recruitment, because I think, honestly, I think every travel organization has somebody who titles themselves that or calls themselves that, but it's sort of an area of expertise for you, based on our call last week, and we were kind of getting to know each other a little bit. So I wanted to point that out because I think we'll probably hit on some of that for a little while in this call. So just wanted to specifically point that out here at the top. For our listeners at home, if you want to connect with Anthony, at Anthony Gliffe, that's Gliffe over on Twitter, and the Illinois Lightning that's the basically 15U and up, and the website is Lake County. I just had it in front of me. It's LakeCountyLightning.com, and the Illinois Lightning are their older age group, so we're going to talk about them as well. Again, welcome to the show, Anthony. I want to get out of the way and let you kind of talk about your journey, your baseball journey from however far you want to go back, and catch us up till today.
Absolutely, Rich. I'd love to. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to listen to this podcast and hear me out. So let's get right into it. So I'm going to start back in high school. Went to Niles North High School, which is a high school in the Chicagoland area. Was lucky enough to earn an athletic scholarship and play Division II baseball at Quincy University. Got my undergrad in special education. Was also fortunate enough to play in 2 collegiate summer leagues in Kentucky and Tennessee for 2 different summers. While in the process of working in school districts, high school districts as a special education teacher and special education TA, I've also coached at various high schools in the Chicagoland area at a variety of levels, so freshman, sophomore, varsity, and 18U travel. I also got my master's in school counseling at Northeastern Illinois University and really dived into student-athlete mental health because I went through some trials and tribulations as a college athlete from a mental health standpoint. So that was something that was really important to me. When I got out of my master's program, I really was looking at 2 different options. I was looking to I'd love the opportunity to be a high school counselor and be able to coach baseball at a local high school, or go the athletic academic advising route at a university level. So luckily that opportunity came to me first, and I worked at the University of Illinois Chicago as the men's basketball advisor and learning specialist for the athletic department at UIC. Then I switched over to Lewis University as the student success coordinator, athletic specialist, and Lewis University is a Division II school in the Great Lakes Valley Conference. And there I oversaw 22 different sports, over 450 student athletes in the areas of college career, academic, and social emotional, as well as tracking their academic eligibility every semester and their progress towards degree. And then I went back to the high school route, and I work at a career and vocational tech center, Technology Center DuPage, as a college and career pathway specialist. Currently, right now, I'm the varsity assistant baseball coach at Vernon Hills High School. And then I got connected with the Illinois Lightning to do something that is very area that I'm very passionate about, and that is helping college-bound student athletes. I've had the opportunity to create a presentation on advising college-bound student athletes and student-athlete mental health, where I have been fortunate enough to present at the state, regional, and national level. So that's kind of my extensive journey in a nutshell. So pretty unique in the sense that I was an athlete. I've worked in higher ed and athletics, and I've worked at high school with athletes. So I think I kind of have a unique landscape in terms of that.
That's a pretty good background for a guy who is, working day to day with teenage ball players. Hopefully these kids sort of understand the value that you can bring to them, and the parents understand the value you can provide their kids. There's two main buckets in here that we could probably spend an hour or more on either one of these. So, but I want to sort of talk in more depth about the mental health piece with the student athletes, and if time allows, I want to talk about the career and vocational support that you're doing for students as well. But I don't even know the best jumping off question to sort of begin to peel back the topic of mental health with the student athlete. So I'd almost like for you to just maybe point us in a direction. As far as maybe some changes that we've seen since you've been sort of in and around. You said when you were in college, there were some things that sort of, that you went through, that inspired you to go kind of into this field a little bit. Where do we begin, and what do we talk about as far as opening this topic up?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing when it comes to mental health stuff, and I've done presentations on this, and it starts early. There's a lot of times where it doesn't manifest itself until you're older. I can tell you that when I went through this in college, this actually started a long time ago. And I can tell you that there's some big, I think, points to hit on with student athletes as far as mental health. One of the biggest things is athletic identity. And athletic identity is where student athletes solely tie themselves to their sport. And they do not develop other areas of their life. They don't acknowledge other areas of their life. They pretty much just hone in on their sport, and they live through their sport, and they live and die by that. So that's one of the big touch points. I think the other thing is retirement of the sport due to eligibility, retirement due to injury. Yeah. Those are some of the big areas where I see student athlete mental health manifesting itself a lot. And I think the biggest thing that happened with me was that athletic identity piece.
Yeah. Let's dive into that one, because the retirement piece of it is believe it or not, I'm no expert in this field. I barely know how to turn on the recorder for the podcast here. But by coincidence, we've talked about the retirement piece, and I've tweeted extensively about this, some pretty long threads where, and without all the buzzwords that from your professional life, the quick take is it ends for everybody. And if it takes up a big old part of your life and it comes to a crashing stop one day, you better find something positive to fill that space with. That's sort of my short take. And do you think that's pretty good advice, or is that sort of in the wrong direction?
No, I think you and me are saying the same things. We're just gonna give it a little bit different of a term. Yeah. I'm big on creating value for yourself. Yeah. Student athletes need to create value for themselves outside of their sport, but while maintaining the importance of their sport. Yeah. And that's something that's very challenging to do, right? So in my work with student athletes from a mental health standpoint, and I look back at myself, it wouldn't have worked just to say, well, Tony, this is baseball. It's going to end someday. Well, that's not what I want to hear, because it's still extremely important to me. Mm-hmm. So how do I maintain the importance of the sport I'm in, but also start to develop value in other aspects of my life. That is the thing, in my opinion, that student athletes need to be constantly striving for. And I think there's a lot of work that's being done at the university level with athletic academic support that is helping student athletes with that.
Do you? I'm a parent of a 6-year-old boy. So I want to ask these questions more as a parent versus from the perspective of a player. Do you think that the number of kids who are struggling with their athletic identity are doing so because mom and dad sort of push them, hey, little Johnny's a baseball player. That's what he is. That's what he does, right? He is a ball player. Does it come from that, or is it sort of self-imposed from the player themselves?
Rich, I think it's both.
Yeah.
I think there's an aspect of the parents. I can tell you that the way I interpret what I went through, you could make the case, well, hey, my dad was really hard. He pushed me to be really successful at baseball, and I'm glad he did. But I also got to experience a lot of success early on because I worked really hard at it. And then you start to see people gravitate around you, and they want big things for you, and they have expectations for you, and you start to develop expectations. Like I can remember early on being on, high-level travel teams and getting called up to varsity as a freshman in high school and playing fall ball with the varsity as an 8th grader, and then starting on varsity as a sophomore, never looking back. So that all builds into that. So I think it in some situations it can be the parents, and I think it can also be self-imposed. Mm-hmm. I think my situation was a little bit of both. I would say it was more self-imposed because I worked really hard and I started to do a lot of good things at a young age, and I was successful, and it led to me getting a scholarship. And I think when you have that kind of experience, it puts more on the table for you. Mm-hmm. And the other piece to it is I carved out a lot of my social life to be good at baseball. Mm-hmm. I didn't hang out with friends. I didn't go to parties. I didn't go do other things. I didn't do other things that kids were doing my age. I saw how my hard work was paying off, and it just kind of fueled me to even keep doing it more.
Spiral, and almost like a spiral.
Yeah, but see, there's positive and there's negative consequences of that. A positive consequence of that was I developed such a fierce work ethic that has transitioned into other aspects of my life now. How successful I've been as a college and career pathway specialist, as an academic advisor, all the side hustle stuff I do, that all stems from my approach and my work ethic to baseball. Whereas if I didn't have that, I don't know what kind of work ethic I'd have. But in the same sense, it also put me in a position of struggle where I struggled with athletic identity. My career for baseball ended up snowballing. I ended up transferring a bunch. I didn't play my senior year in college. And I ended up gaining a ton of weight because I started to eat and drink a lot, because that was my way of trying to handle this stuff. So it's a really interesting dynamic.
On a global level, this is potentially some what's that phrase? Kind of like first world problems, right? Like, you're lucky. We're lucky if this is the biggest problem in our life that we're known as a ball player. Because the alternative is maybe you're not a ball player, maybe you're out running the streets, right? So as far as problems go, I would rather take this problem than a million other problems. That's for sure. But nonetheless, for the kid who is sort of struggling with this situation, it is serious, or can become serious, or can lead to something more serious down the road, especially when, like we already acknowledged, it's going to end at some point. So then, how does that trauma manifest itself if you're known as the ball player? That's what you are. And then one day you're not, that can create all kinds of struggles. So if you're a parent of, a kid who, is 12, 13, 14, 15, you're starting to see that baseball's beginning to take over more and more and more of this kid's life, more of his schedule, and you start to go, what Anthony just described looks a whole lot like what my kid is starting to get into. Like, what do you talk to mom and dad about? Like, how do you give them guidance?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, Rich, I haven't had to have too many of those conversations with younger parents, but I look at it like this, right? When I have kids of my own someday and they get involved in sports, how am I going to approach it as a parent differently than what I did? And I can tell you that how I'm going to approach it and what I would encourage parents to do is to have them manage their time better in terms of there are a lot of hours in the day. Can you still work and put in some work to be successful at your sport, but then later on in the day go and be a kid and have fun and go do kid things or go have different experiences and get involved in different things? In my opinion, I think that can happen.
Yeah, to be specific, non-baseball kid things.
Yeah. Go to your friend's house and have fun and go to a pool party, or go do this extracurricular club activity at the school that you're also passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be 24/7.
Right.
I think that there is a way that you can get all those different things done within a day if you're structured and you manage your time well, right?
Right.
So to give you an example, it's like if you want to work at baseball, get out at 8 a.m. and go for a couple hours and take grounders or get some swings in. And then you're done with baseball for the day, and the rest of the day you focus on being a kid instead of having your whole life revolve around it.
Yep. For those of you tuning in, appreciate you all listening live to my therapy session here with Anthony. I feel like we're talking potentially about me, and maybe I'm overcorrecting a little bit because once I got into, say, 14, 15, 16, it was all baseball. Yeah, I had played other sports too, and then I wasn't that good at them. Wasn't quite tall enough to be that great at volleyball, right? That was just something I did, a couple years in high school. We had men's volleyball here locally at the high school. Then at younger ages, it was, it was the YMCA soccer, swimming, basketball, did all those things, right, at younger age groups. But as probably like you, as you got older, it was a major focus on baseball, probably to the detriment of other activities. And part of it might have been like my parents' experiences. Like, they weren't musicians. So guess what? We didn't take guitar lessons, right? My parents weren't into the outdoors. So we didn't do Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts, right? You know what I mean? So it's sort of like based on their background. So I might be overcorrecting a little bit with my kid. We're not doing T-ball. He's 6. Like, I've seen T-ball, and I'm like, I'm kind of like, I'm not that sold on it. I don't think you have to be on a championship T-ball team to go to, to play college baseball. So if we get to baseball, we get to baseball. But, with him, I'm just like, okay, let's go do karate. Let's go do soccer. Let's go camping. Let's play some music. You know what I mean? I'm like trying to expose him to everything I wish I had been exposed to, if you will. So,
I would say you're trying to help him and encourage him and give him a well-rounded experience.
Correct.
And my thing and my whole viewpoint, and this is just my opinion, I think a student athlete, a kid can have a well-rounded experience while still working hard at his sport that he's interested in.
I think so too.
Or playing multiple sports.
Yeah. Now, to sort of jump back to, back to the ending part of this is like, eventually it does come to an end, either through injury or you just cap out, right? You go to college, you play your couple years there, 4 years if you're lucky, and you're not a pro guy, and you're done. And this sort of brings us back to, my, less than expert advice is like, when you're done, you're going to need something to fill that void, something positive. I got very lucky that I found whitewater kayaking. It filled the void. There's an athletic component to it. There's a mental component to it. There is there's the team component to it, if you will, in many ways. There's the camaraderie component to it. There's the travel component to it. And for me, it was a great, like, really clean transition from one sport that I was pretty good at to another sport that I was pretty good at. But with all of the excitements of like, oh, this thing's new. It's like you know what I mean? When you get this new thing and you go into it. And I hope that every kid who is so into their baseball today is able to find their next thing when it comes time. And, it might not be a bad idea to do what you're talking about, is like try things while you're playing baseball so that when it comes to an end, you've got that next thing ready to go. You can dive deeper into, your camping and hiking, or you can dive deeper into your guitar playing or whatever it is. So yeah, that retirement thing can sneak up on some people, can it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's where I think the piece that I mentioned earlier about creating value for yourself in other areas. Like I'll give you an example. I've had student athletes at the university level who are journalism, communication majors.
Yeah.
Go write for the university newspaper.
Yep. Go
start doing a blog. And don't just talk about sports, but talk about things that you're passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
Those are just some examples of where I'm encouraging them, because I did not do that. I did not see that I would be a baseball coach and helping kids with college and career stuff, and I would love to golf and fish. Like, I just saw in the moment, I'm a baseball player, I'm not doing well, and I'm really blowing this opportunity, and there's a lot of people that are counting on me, coaches from home, parents, my college coaches, my college teammates, and I'm letting them all down. And I used to get so crazy, Rich, that I thought that people just liked me only based off of my baseball stuff. Like, if I wasn't good at baseball, then they weren't going to like me as a person.
Mm.
So a lot of stuff, man, that I just put myself through that I wish I could do things differently. And that's why I got into all this, is to really help college student athletes, high school student athletes who might be going through similar things, that might be afraid to talk about it because it's taboo as a student athlete to talk about that, even though that is shifting now. But back when I was in college and all that stuff, you didn't really talk about that.
Yeah. Let's give some advice, and then I want to move on to career and vocational. I want to give that some time. But if if a kid feels like who do you recommend a kid go talk to?
Well, I think that depends on where they're at. I think definitely having a conversation with their folks if they're young enough. If they're in high school, I think talking to their coach, talking to maybe their school counselor or social worker. If they're at the university level, I think a sports psychologist at the universities, and some universities are able to have people in that. They have mental health professionals that are trained in student athletes. I think being open and honest with your coach or an academic advisor, and I know that could be tough, but I think coaches now are more well-equipped with understanding this stuff than maybe coaches were 15 years ago. I wish, if I could go back, I wish I had somebody I could go talk to about this stuff. I wish I could talk to my coaches about what I was going through and what I was thinking, and in the hopes that they would be understanding and helping me to work through that. So I just think seeking out those kind of people could be really important, and allowing yourself to be vulnerable and put that conversation out there.
Mm-hmm. We're going to take a hard right turn, and because I want to give some time to sort of the other, the other big thing in your life is talking about career planning and vocational training. Can you sort of fill in the listeners as to what your role in that space looks like?
Yeah, I would love to, and it's something I'm extremely passionate about. So I work at the Technology Center of DuPage in Addison, Illinois. It's a suburb of Chicago, and we offer career and technical education courses for high school students to take, where they can earn dual credit with a couple of our local community colleges, and they can earn professional certifications in those specific career programs. So to name a few, we have construction, HVAC, residential wiring, we have welding, we have EMT, fire science, cosmetology, we have nursing assistant training program, we have multimedia, we have automotive technology, auto body. And when our high school students come from their high school and take our classes, they can earn dual credit, get great hands-on experience, and earn professional certifications that allow them to go a couple different routes. They can go to a union, they can go the apprenticeship route, internship route, they can continue on at the community college route, they can go the university route, or they can get a part-time or full-time job right out of high school.
This is such an interesting and important topic. I find myself in a very kind of weird spot because professionally, right, I work with high school baseball players that want to play college baseball. And so professionally, 100% of the kids I come across want to go to college, right? Because that's where college baseball is played. Now, personally, I don't think that 100% of the population needs to go to college. What a lot of kids need to do is pick up a skill set, and a lot of these skills are exactly what you just rattled off as far as some of the training that you guys expose students to. Now, this is a baseball podcast, and so we need to talk about the idea of sort of combining the desire to play college baseball with this unbelievable opportunity to pick up an actual skill that gets paid very well in the open market. I mean, it's in our country in 2022, if you can do something with your hands, you're going to make a ton of money, because those skills have been undervalued for so long. We've over-indexed on the idea that your liberal arts degree is more important than being able to turn a wrench or make an air conditioner work. We have totally over-indexed that idea. So walk me through, because again, I work with ball players. How can, and I'm sure you're walking a lot of your Lightning players through this similar path. How does a kid go from high school to college baseball while picking up these tangible vocational skills that are going to set them up for a high-income job in let's put it this way, in a non-suit wearing position, if that isn't too non-PC for our listeners.
So, Rich, that's an interesting dynamic there, and I can break it down a couple of different ways for you. But first off, I'm completely on the same page with you. I think there needs to be more balance. We have a student loan debt crisis in this country.
1.7 trillion with a T, and we've talked about it on the show almost weekly at this point.
And I got to tell you, there's a lot of people that I think need to be involved in the slicing the pie, so to speak, and who takes blame. And part of it is how we're educating and preparing our students for post-secondary options at the high school level.
Yes.
I don't think we're having conversations on the long-term impact of student loans and how it finances your college education and how it can hinder you. I think a lot of our high schools become four-year heavy focused, and they don't push the benefits of a trade or a skill or utilizing a community college to get an associate's or certificate or anything like that.
It's weird because it almost feels like an unintended negative consequence from a well-intended thought process, and for a couple generations now we've said college, that's the way to a guaranteed great job. And like 30 years ago, it probably was. But we went from like 15% of the high school population going to college to like 85%. Like we flipped it, and it you know what? When that happened, things changed.
Yeah, so let me give you a couple dynamics to get back to your original.
Yeah, please.
You asked me to walk through it, right?
Yep.
So one option when I do with my student athletes is I really predicate what I'm going to tell them next based on what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, Rich, to be honest with you, if I have an athlete who wants to do education, they have to go to a 4-year.
Okay.
You can't be a teacher in any state without getting your undergrad and getting your state licensure at a 4-year. You know what I'm saying?
Now, we'll pause for a second. Couldn't they but they could go 2 years JUCO and then finish at a 4-year and still accomplish the same. So, but in the end, they're getting 4 years. They're going into they get their teaching degree and they go into the classroom.
Yes. So that was the next thing I was going to mention. So there are certain degrees. There are certain degrees where you just have to go the 4-year route. Okay. If I have a student athlete who fits into one of that, then obviously it's going to be college. The other thing is, if I do have an athlete who is interested in a specific skill or trade, then I really encourage going the community college route, because community colleges are the ones that have those technical skills. They have those programs. And I'll give you an example. I had a kid for Illinois Lightning who wanted to become a firefighter. So the conversation changes like, hey, man, there's not really fire departments around here in Illinois are not looking for a 4-year degree unless you're trying to go the administration route.
Right.
So I really encouraged him to go play community college for 2 years and get his associates in EMT or paramedic or fire science.
Oh, yes.
You know what I'm saying? And then they have to decide at the end of 2 years if he wants to go out into competitive employment or if he wants to continue on and play baseball 4 years. But I was very open and honest with him, and I said, you don't need a 4-year degree to do this.
Could you just imagine, just for a second, for our listeners at home, mom and dad have a kid, and the kid he's like, I want to be a fireman. That's what I want to do when I grow up. I'm gonna work for the fire department. And the $50,000 a year school wants him to come play. That high academic D3 down the road, and mom and dad are like, yeah, go do that. Go do that. He goes there for 4 years, drops $200,000 for this degree to then go be a firefighter.
Yeah.
Mind blown. And firefighter is just one example, but it's like, that's a great job that does not require $200,000 in debt to go do.
No, because most of them want a high school diploma or an associate's, and then they want your EMT certification.
Yes.
So you don't need to, what should happen is you get in as a firefighter, you put years in, and then if you want to work up in administration within fire, then you go and get your bachelor's. And guess what the nice thing is? maybe that fire department has a program.
Yeah,
where
they're
they
going to
help
pay for it. Yeah,
pay for your bachelor's.
they're going to pay for it. You're going to do it on your off time because you know, 99% of fire departments work on an incredible schedule where you're working like 2 days on, 5 days off kind of situation. It's bananas. They're the amount of flex time those guys get. Walk me through another example. Maybe something in the more Votech space, like an HVAC or plumbing, something like that.
I'll give you a great example. Okay, I have a girl that goes to our school, TCD, right, and she's in the cosmetology program. She just committed to North Central College in Naperville to play Division III soccer. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think this is so smart of her, and her parents are spot on with encouraging her to do this. She is utilizing her experience in cosmetology to go do a business degree at North Central to eventually open up her own salon. Mm. Now, how smart is that? She is leveraging our place to get some experience that is going to supplement her business degree and allow her to open up her own salon. Not only is she going to come out with a 4-year degree in business, but because she went to our school and got hands-on experience in Cosmo and she's going to eventually earn her state licensure as a cosmetologist. Couple that with the business degree, she's going to be able to open up her own salon one day.
I love that this is important to you. I feel like I am out on an island all by myself when I'm over, yelling about the $1.7 trillion in student loan debts over on Twitter. And I kind of test this. It's kind of funny. I'll tweet about it, maybe every couple months or once every few months, and it never fails. You know who always hammers me about this? It always seems to be when I mention that a kid can go to school without going $100,000 in debt, the person who gets the most worked up about that is usually a young college coach who's $100,000 in debt. It's so funny. It's like clockwork. When I tweet this topic out and I say that you can do it without going $100K in debt, there's always a young college coach who's $100,000 in debt who it's like misery loves company. They just, hey, y'all, man, the water's warm. Come on in with me, please. It's crazy. And it drives me bananas that because they're $100K in debt, they want the next kid to come join them. No way, man. No way.
Yeah, and that's the tough part of my job, Rich, is, I provide these options and scenarios to families, not to push them to do it, but just so that they think about it. But ultimately, they're going to make the best decision for themselves. And sometimes that's against what I think they should do. But that's the tough part of my job is I have to leave my bias to the side.
Yeah, the reality is most families that I'm coming in contact with don't think about these type of ideas as even an option, right? Like they're like, oh, it's 4 years. That's where we're going. That's the only option if we want to play baseball. Now, hey, 2022, junior college baseball has become a lot more popular. A lot more people are discovering it, and now all of a sudden there's a portion of the population that goes, oh, we can go this way, and then we can finish up with this big school that everybody knows the name of, and we can get that sweatshirt. So the more we can educate people, and the more people that will discover that there's even more options than that, the better. The better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So like I said, man, I think those are some really great examples of how student athletes can leverage the vocational career route. They can even use it as supplemental stuff to enhance what they want to do at the college level, or they could just utilize the community college route and play for 2 years and at the end figure out if they want to continue or not, or if they want to just take their degree and go be competitively employed, you know?
You know, when you say competitively, listen, I was talking about this same topic with a friend of mine, and he said, you know, he's rehabbing some real estate, and he was like, dang, he goes, my plumber's hourly rate is higher than my lawyer's hourly rate. I don't know if it was a joke, kind of a joke, maybe a joke, but the point that he even said it tells you that, you know, just how great you can do. You know, you don't have to be a lawyer or doctor to find tremendous financial success in this country. As a matter of fact, if you can get your hands dirty right now in 2022, be it by fixing an air conditioner or you know, doing some plumbing or fixing an engine in a car, man, you're like, you have like a superhero talent, because nobody knows how to do that stuff anymore. I know I don't. You don't fix cars in the driveway anymore. These things are too technical. Somebody has to have super specific knowledge and training on how to do these things. And the kids who can figure out that unlock, they're gonna be very well rewarded moving forward, and probably not go $100,000 in debt along the way. So it's twofold.
Oh yeah, I mean, you and me are speaking the same language here, man. So I'm all about.
Yeah, we're both preaching back and forth to the choir. Hey, I want to, while I got you for a couple more minutes here, wanted to hit you with a couple of a couple of those questions I sent over ahead of time, because I'm sure you're going to have some good some good things to share with our listeners here. The first one's sort of a softball. What book, movie, website do you think every coach should watch or read to learn something from?
Yeah, so I think one website, and I know this is pretty big in the Chicago area. I'm not sure if it's nationally, but I hope it is the Positive Coaching Alliance.
Oh yeah, what's that guy's name?
You know, I don't know the specific, but my old boss at University of Illinois Chicago, her husband and herself did a lot of work with that organization, and they provide a lot of good content to help develop athletes into being better people, better athletes, helping coaches develop into better coaches through positivity. I think that would be a good thing to look at. From a coaching standpoint,
by the way, I'll pause you there for a second. I just pulled it up. It's actually not who I thought it was, but the website is positivecoach.org, and that takes you to the Positive Coaching Alliance. This is pretty cool. I'll dig into this after the call. What was your next suggestion going to be?
When it comes to like coaching specific with baseball stuff, I think the American Baseball Coaches Association, their convention, they bring in top-level people within the industry who do it at the highest level with the highest amount of success. I've always found value in listening to those guys and picking their brains and seeing how I can take what they do and put it into my situation. So I've always been big on learning from those guys. I can tell you. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
We had a recent guest suggested the same thing, and I'll give a little bonus for anybody who didn't hear that episode. If you're a member of the ABCA, apparently it unlocks access to like all of the past presentations. So like they've been filming the presentations from all the top speakers for many conferences in a row. So you can just go to the website, and if there's a topic you want to learn more about, there's probably a renowned coach who gave a 30 or 60 minute talk on it. So you can go find those. Not only do they have their podcast out there with tons of coaches, but they also have the actual presentations available to members.
Yeah, so I was going to say that I've done a lot. When I was a baseball player looking at swings and all that stuff, I tried to see what the best players in the game are doing. There's a lot of stuff that, at least from a hitting standpoint, that what makes these professionals really good is they all kind of do similar things or the same things at certain parts of their swing. So, you know, like, not to get too technical here, but when their stride foot lands and they're in their hitting position, if you look at major leaguers across the board, they all get into a pretty similar position. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to, and I still try to look at things, people on Twitter, blogs, articles. I have coaches who I trust who are mentors to me who send me articles. And I'm always looking at new information and seeing how they're interpreting it, analyzing it, and doing that. So I apologize I don't have a specific book or website or article.
All good.
But I try to learn and listen to the people who are doing it at the highest level and who are doing it the best.
Let's fast forward to my last question on this list, which usually leads to some really great ideas. What one change do you think could be made to travel baseball that would have the biggest positive impact?
Yeah, I think there's a couple. One, I think a lot of travel programs could develop their players better or take more of a focus on player development with regards to the off season. Now, I'm not trying to say that every travel program does or doesn't do this, but I know there's a lot who they're a part of the program, they go and play in these tournaments, and then it's kind of like, see you later.
Mm.
And then I know some travel programs who, with your payment or your membership of being on the team, you get individual instruction throughout the winter. You get a hitting guy, they have an infield guy, they have a catching guy, they have a strength guy, and their program is so streamlined that you're touching base with all of those different coaches on a weekly basis to develop your game holistically. So I think that's one big thing, is if travel programs got more into the development side of things with their players during their off season, or if suitable during their season, during the week. I talked to a lot of college coaches, obviously, in my position, and a lot of them can tell the difference between travel programs who actually play the game authentically, who are trying to win or authentically playing the game the right way, and travel programs who just go out there and it's 9 individuals just playing the game who happen to be on the same team and are just like showcasing themselves. And I think a positive impact that could happen is if maybe, more travel programs played the game authentically. And like I said, that I'm not trying to make a general assumption. I think there's some travel programs that do that, and I think there's some that are not. But I can tell you that I've had coaches specifically come up to me, and in the short time that I've been with the Illinois Lightning, one of the things they love about us is how authentic we try to play the game, and they feel that. They feel that, and they see that when they come out and watch our teams compete. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like an authentic thing versus like, hey, we're 9 individuals and we're going to be robotic in what we do.
Well, it's not a huge surprise when you roll out kids who don't know each other and haven't played together, and they just end up in the same lineup, versus kids who have they've been playing together, they train together, they work out together. Like you see that come across in the way they play, right? Because like whether it be in a bunt defense or a double play or whatever the case may be, yeah, baseball is in a lot of ways, it really is an individual endeavor. So you're just surrounded by 8 other guys defensively, right? Like it's you versus the ball on a ground ball. And the guy next to you is not going to help you field it. But then sometimes there is this teamwork aspect where, whether it's cuts and relays or, pitch calling or whatever the case may be, where like knowing the other people around you it comes across. It really does. The flip side is, I guess the counterpoint is like, some of the travel baseball benefit is sort of the efficiency of the showcase aspect, right? So it's like, man, it really is a, sort of like I don't know if there's a right or wrong way that needs to be done every single day, because some days some days you want to showcase yourself, right? And other days,
you're right, Rich. You're totally right, Rich. There's a fine line, right? Because the other side of this is you have to be kind of prescriptive with, okay, my A, B, and C, and D pitchers are throwing at this time at
Correct.
this game, as opposed to, well, you know what, we're in this tight situation in this game in a tournament, and I'm going to bring so-and-so in because he's done better against lefties than righties. And that's the other side of where teams can fall short, right? So I've had college coaches talk to me about our organization, and they love that we try to be authentic and win. At the same time, where we fall short with them is, well, I never know who your guys are a week ahead of time, so I can plan my recruiting trips to come out and see them.
Right.
Because our coaches are so invested in matchups and percentages, and they're trying to win, and that's great. But at the same time, it does a disservice to the college coaches who are coming out. And what I've tried to do in the short amount of time with our organization is to make our coaches more aware of that. And I try to encourage them to get that streamlined and put the schedules out ahead of time and post it on Twitter. And so our coaches can see, okay, well, so-and-so's throwing at this time at 9:15. I'll make sure to be there, as opposed to our coaches saying, well, so-and-so's not feeling great. I'm going to make this change 20 minutes out. There's no way a college coach can adjust for that.
Right. No, I think it's a really important discussion to be had, like internally for an organization. It's like, what direction do you want to go? And maybe some of it has to do with like what type of team are you? Or do you have the ability to, like, are most of your guys local? Like, can you get together? Some of these teams simply don't have the opportunity to practice together, for an example, because their guys are from too far apart. It's just the sort of the nature of the beast at this point. But really, really good discussion, good topic to jump into. Do you have any sort of parting words for any moms or dads or coaches or even players that still might be with us right now before we finish up?
Yeah, this is a big thing for me, because I always get asked questions from parents as far as, when do I start the recruiting process and blah 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 and all that stuff. And I want to tell parents a couple things, right, with regards to their son or daughter with anything, particularly for baseball, but I think it aligns with other sports. One, don't get caught up in the hype with all these athletes committing verbally as freshmen or sophomores or juniors in high school. Don't get caught up in the hype, because the verbal commitment is just a verbal commitment. There's nothing official behind it. It doesn't stand. Nothing actually officially happens until your son or daughter signs in the fall of their senior year. I think a lot of them get caught up in that, and then they see this kid's committing to Louisville, and they're like, oh, man, my son's not there yet. I got to get him going, and I got to do all this and that. Understand that every athlete, your son or daughter, is going to fall into a different recruiting timeline, and it's based on their talent. Some kids are going to be earlier. Some kids are going to be on time, and some kids are going to be late bloomers.
Mm-hmm.
The kids that are doing exceptional things on a national level for their age group, sure, things are going to happen early.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They get into the situation of, well, they're taking visits in their junior year already, and then they're getting pushed to make a verbal commitment. And that happens to student athletes who are doing exceptional things for their age group on a national level. And then you have your typical timeline, which is after your junior season on varsity, that summer going into the fall of your senior year is the most standard recruiting timeline for most students. And then it's the late bloomer. So I think if parents have a better understanding of not to get caught in the hype, know that my son or daughter is going to fall into one of those three, and no matter which they fall into, it's okay. And then have a understanding and be realistic with where your son or daughter's talent level and development is, and that's going to dictate when their recruiting process starts.
Mm-hmm.
Because I see a lot of parents, should I do this showcase? Should I do prep baseball report now? And it's like they're an 8th grader freshman and they're a right-hander and they're throwing 70. That doesn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like the other thing is understand when your son is ready to showcase or do those kinds of things. And like I said, that's talent. That's based on their talent and when they develop. So, we could get into a whole nother segment on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We'll have to bring you back for another round, man. I've really enjoyed this. That first part talking about the mental health, I think that's going to be important for a lot of people to hear. Man, I appreciate you coming on. Don't hang up yet, but I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, Rich, thank you, and I appreciate it. I'd love to come back for a second round, and thank you to everybody who listened today or in the future.
All right, hang on one second.